I'm looking all over the place. We're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Google Meets. And we're going to take a few minutes, up to 60 minutes, to talk about specifically growing your brand, growing your customer base, increasing your community presence, making sure that you are a thought leader and that person in your industry, within your field, within yourself, making sure that if necessary, you're able to provide a strong experience for those that purchase from you. Not only provide a strong experience, but also you're fulfilling those orders that you have agreed to in a timely, professional manner, making sure you're able to retain your customer base through loyalty, as well as make sure that most and all conflicts are resolved through conflict resolution. And so any questions or concerns that you have in your wheelhouse, in your field, in your industry about those subjects, now is the time to feel free and go ahead and ask those questions. If you're an entrepreneur or just a seasoned professional or emerging leader, you're looking to get into, those endeavors, business development, community engagement, networking, media relations, government relations, brand awareness, anything dealing with those areas, those aspects, we definitely want to jump on. If you're a nonprofit leader, having questions in regards to raising capital, putting yourself in a position to be seen as legitimate, as well as a certain opportunity for a brand to donate their time, talent, or money in, definitely want to ask those questions as well. And so it's an open house. And so if you have a question, put it in the chat. And outside of the questions you have, I'll also take the time to speak on or give you a presentation on how and why it's important to step outside of your comfort zone. How and why it's important to step outside your comfort zone, especially if we're talking about growing your business and taking risks. It's very important to know that stepping outside your comfort zone is a part of the process, and so you have to embrace that. Excuse me. You have to embrace that because being it from a professional standpoint or being an entrepreneur, believe it or not, your story is being created at that time. Your brand is building. Your story is being created. Your indirect message is being created, and your brand is starting to receive content at that time. And so it's very important to always, I don't want to call it confidence, but be courageous, which is the form of confidence as well, I would say. But be courageous in going after what has been set before you, being something as simple as a project for a company you work for, or going after, going after maybe starting a business or more. But being comfortable going after those opportunities are what's going to, if you have a business mindset, is going to help take what you do to the next level as you're building your brand. So we'll talk about that, break that down. But the biggest thing again is I'm opening up, and I'll do it in the future. I know we're not all available. I'm opening up my time to answer any questions or concerns you may have when it comes to business development, networking, customer base expansion, community engagement, brand awareness, especially if you're a business owner of any size, you have questions, you need inside access, if you have any true projects you're working on now, and you need a perspective, especially from an urban area perspective as well. We'll definitely break down my work and what I do shortly, but I'm going to provide you with valuable insight and guidance on any burning question you have. Definitely want Q&A in this case, and so hopefully as we grow this thing, I want to make sure for those that join the groups, I'm able to pass contact information, as we're all professionals here, back and forth, especially when it comes to networking, building a coalition, a council, things of that nature. And so that's one of the values that I bring, especially in business development, is not only providing you with leads and prospects from a traditional sense, but also helping you to network and to build your relationships. So this is an opportunity, a platform for us to do that. And again, we'll talk about stepping outside your comfort zone. And so any questions, make sure that you are putting those questions in the chat so that I can assist you at any point. I definitely want to shout out my friends. Now I think about them. Well, first of all, I'll say this. Today, my podcast, Insight into Insight, All Things Societal. Make sure you tune in there. I have a new podcast, a new episode that is streaming today. I want to shout out my friend, Otis Carter IV. That's Otis Carter IV. And he came on the show to talk about his journey. He's an entrepreneur, community leader, family man, a person that's trying to be the best person he can be, like we all are as leaders. And so I wanted to highlight his story, what he has done in the Southeast region of the U.S., to include the impact he's made in my life and in my work. And so please stop by my podcast Insight into, I-N, the numerical number 2, Insight into Insight, All Things Societal. And I chose Insight into Insight to follow my work, my YouTube channel, my page. Insight being, a lot of times I'll do individual presentations or discussions or just trainings. And so that's the insight that I'm providing you. But what I'll do is I'll take that video and that training, and then I will watch it and review it with you, and I will break it down. So it's Insight into Insight. And I used to do that all the time and just thought it was a cool name, because when we're talking about the podcast, Insight into Insight, now we're getting insight into a insightful person that may not have been a part of your world, but is a part of mine. And so whatever insight I receive, that's good food, and it's going to help you get to the next level. I want to make sure that I'm sharing that with you. So Insight into Insight, and then of course All Things Societal, meaning that as you know my work, I dabble and deal with things in government, business, and community relations, traditionally in the forms of workforce marketing, helping employers and career trainers connect to local residents to apply for their available jobs and career training opportunities, real estate community engagement, mostly on the event marketing side, or hosting the event, outsourcing it, or the event is outsourced to us from a developer that's having a meeting for community buy-in or informational session. They can outsource the work, we'll host the event, but then we can go deeper into the zoning process as well. And then also nonprofit and business development, and that's just pretty much helping your private businesses and your volunteer businesses increase not only their customer base, but also their donor base. And so I do have a free, I'm sorry, it's not free, it's $25, a 1-hour pre-recorded training video on how to connect with corporate donors for your nonprofit business. $25, 16-minute pre-recorded video of how to ensure that your brand and your message, especially if you said, hey, I'm starting this nonprofit from scratch and we're just getting started, how do we create legitimacy and certainty for this nonprofit organization, for this community group, to a point where you can get in front of a corporate decision maker, deliver a presentation, receive funding, and maintain a long-term working relationship. $25 for that. But ultimately, again, it's pretty much, I hope I'm going to train of thought on that, pretty much as far as the perspective of nonprofit development, if you're looking to increase that corporate, that base, that donor base, again, I have a pre-recorded $25 60-minute training on that. So there should be a link in there to find that. Outside of that, like I said, we're going to jump into this presentation. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into this presentation. And this presentation is important to me because I feel like if you're going to be where you want to be in your business, you have to be okay with stepping outside your comfort zone. And I'm looking away from the camera right now because I have this presentation. I do these trainings regularly, and I want you to be aware and sure that you have to step outside your comfort zone, especially if you are a business owner and leader or nonprofit leader, executive director. You just have to. And anyone that's looking to get from here to there is going to have to step outside their comfort zone as well. And your comfort zone could be as extreme as you perceive it, but ultimately you are doing something different. And a natural survival mechanism is to make sure that things go smooth, and so when you're doing something different, it's not necessarily the best approach for the brain, which I appreciate, looking out for your best interest. But ironically, it's those that go against the grain to some degree, whatever that looks like, are the ones that take the risk, are the ones that usually reap the reward, get the return on the investment. And once they get that return on the investment, once they get that return, to me it only makes sense to let that return work for you to increase your passive cash flow and revenue stream. And you can't get mad at somebody who knows the game. It's touchy, but you can't get mad at someone that knows the game, that knows financial literacy and how to make it work for you. And it all starts because you're stepping outside your comfort zone is the whole point to what I'm saying. And so we want to definitely jump into that conversation and teaching your brain what the heart already knows. Getting comfortable being outside your comfort zone. Teaching your brain what the heart already knows. I want to shout out, so again, that's the podcast coming out. I want to shout out ADP. I want to shout out my friends at ADP. Speaking of a podcast, I just finished a podcast a few weeks ago with my man Leo Weefering and Anna Harrison. And they are the service team members for the Nashville district area of ADP for small business services. And they're here to make sure that your human capital management system is where it's supposed to be. And so not only do we represent and work with the Nashville office, but if you need to connect with ADP period for your human capital, of course, your payroll. I'm gonna say this, I have the link. I did a 60-minute interview with the district leaders for Nashville for small business services as to why and how and what's the benefits of ADP and their human capital management solutions for your business, even if it's just one person. If it's just you and you're subcontracting that work out to an independent person, whatever, they have a way to help you out on that. So I'll leave the link to that conversation. It was on my podcast. Again, shout out Insight into Insight, All Things Societal, what that looks like. Reach out to my friends at ADP. See if they're a good fit for you. I know they are, but see if they're a good fit for you for your payroll and overall human resource and administrative needs regarding your human resources, as well as just the overall operation and how everything integrates in a cloud-based way. I'm gonna leave it at that. Check out the interview. And so shout out to my friends ADP. So teaching your brain what your heart already knows. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Teach your brain what your heart already knows. What does that mean? Leave that in the comments. What does that mean to you? What does that mean when it comes to teaching your brain what your heart already knows? And to me, when I think of brain, and I think of heart, even though they're two physical entities, if you will, I look at the brain and the heart maybe from a physical and a spiritual perspective. More of a logical, structured, and a more logical and structured compared to irrational and free-flowing, maybe bad descriptions, but in them there's a perfect balance when you know how to work them, when your brain and your heart can work together. There's a perspective that people have. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't. Leave in the comments. And the thing about my work, respectfully, is I deal with human beings. I manage relationships, and we'll get into my story in a minute in the presentation. But I manage, relationships, and everyone has a different perspective. I ran for office at one point, and I realized if I had won that I'm representing like 20,000 minds, 20,000 perspectives. And I'm not going to be able to satisfy all 20,000 at the minimum. Imagine if you're at the federal level. This is local, state, local level, district, a ward or a council district. So, you know, it's definitely something that, bringing it back to the conversation, I don't lose my train of thought, but it's definitely something that at the end of the day you have to balance as far as a spiritual and a physical perspective. And again, to bring it back to politics, if I can tie it in together, ultimately just having perspectives that, where was I going with that? Well, anyway, I'll tie it in. There was a point to the actual elected official side. Oh, that's what it was. This is a big point, and I'll just bring it up anyways. Thank you. So, and I say, because they say don't talk about politics and religion. That's the whole point. Don't talk about politics and religion. And I'm going to bring it up here because I want to challenge the stimulation process, and let's see. But I know in certain, I don't know if it's true, but I would say in certain faith-based situations, there was individuals that wanted to pay homage, if you will, and they would bow their head to the ground. And I think that may be in multiple faith-based conversations, but they bow their head to the ground to symbolize, at that point, the heart being over the mind or the brain. And I don't know how, I mean, let's talk about it. That's the whole point. And again, like I said, I stimulate conversations. I have to in my line of work when you're managing relationships, because you're dealing with personal perspectives, but then you have to tie that into commerce, because you have to maintain relationships enough for people to deal with you, and maybe even change their perspective based upon your walk, but then you also got to take care of business. So I've been walking a tightrope for a long time, and I've experienced, various perspectives of when situations, people, I touch on a sensitive situation, but that's the point of my podcast, All Things Societal, because we have to be aware that, shout out to my man, Kevin McKenzie just joined, and he's been a huge inspiration and mentor in my life, first and foremost. And that's why, again, it's important to step outside your comfort zone, because when you do that, you never know who you're going to run into, who's going to pour into you. And that's a powerful man. And I had a chance to work with a lot of interns. And every time, I had an intern I was working with for a particular season, he poured into them. And I know that he built some really great relationships with those emerging leaders. So I want to shout you out. You're definitely a part of whatever success that people see me have. You definitely are a part of that, and I say that from the heart. And so we're jumping into, in this case, how teaching the brain what your heart already knows. And so looking again, the brain being the physical, the heart being spiritual. And again, I brought it down to the faith-based situation where the head is bowed down to the ground, to where the heart is now over the mind or the head. Because we always want to think logically, we always want to look for survival, and I get it. But sometimes we have to follow the heart, and a lot of times we have to know how to align the heart and the mind to get things done. And when you're able to do that, that's one of the key foundations to being able to have the courage and then the confidence to step outside your comfort zone. And a lot of the courage and the confidence is going to come because, again, that's just what your heart is about. The confidence is going to indirectly come from knowing certain situations, because the more you know, the more you can be prepared for. We're talking about survival in that sense. So the more prepared you are, the more confident you're going to be. Imagine playing a video game for the first time, and let's say you played the same video game and it comes out every year. So you played the video game for the last 5 years, but this is a new version coming out this year. I'm sure you're going to have a hard time, getting started, even though you know the concept of the game, but you're not going to be as successful because you don't know anything. You're not as prepared. And imagine playing a video game you never played before. And you can look at that as life as well. You just never played life. And if you don't have, individuals in your corner, if you don't know the rules, that becomes very, very much more challenging. And that's why I want to shout out my man, Kevin McKenzie. It's about the best team that wins. Each one teach one. And I want to say he's definitely been doing that work. I've seen him in action. So hats off and salute to you and your family and your loved ones. Let's go ahead and talk about, again, so that was the balance, the paying the homage balance situation, the mind over the heart. But again, teaching your brain what your heart already knows. Kevin, if you don't mind, what we're doing, and anyone else that jumps in, the objective today is I am providing an hour, and I have about 40 minutes left. So I'm not in a rush, but I'm providing an hour of my time and my advising, my guidance to help any business owner or any emerging entrepreneur or any professional looking to take what they do to the next level in the areas of business development, increasing your customer base, increasing your prospecting list, that whole pipeline situation, networking, work in the room, making sure you're getting contacts, customer base, expansion, community engagement. How do you get that buy-in, the loyalty that you need, brand awareness, getting that message, that image, that persona out there? If you have any questions in regards to that, anything you're working on, any projects, school projects, whatever it is, I'm opening my time for the next 40 minutes. It's an hour. I haven't had a chance to connect with my friends in a long time, and I want to make sure that I'm still able to connect with you all, to wish you well, but then also to assist you with what your challenges are in government, business, and community relations. So check out my work at www.e1connect.com. That's www.connect.com. Check out my work as far as outsourcing and promoting corporate presence. Check that out. And then also ldhadvising.com. www.l as in Lord, D as in Donovan, H as in Henry, Hilton, advising.com, ldhadvising.com. That's where, as I built this brand of outsourcing and marketing, I've had a chance to really build working relationships with these decision owners, business leaders, board members, executive leaders, executive directors of nonprofits, and helping them on a smaller scale with guidance and resources, inside access and resources. And so that's what that aspect is if you need guidance. And so I'm opening this door up for you all for Q&A, if you have questions, challenges. And we're also talking about, I'm doing this small presentation of stepping outside your comfort zone while we're waiting on questions. So we're talking about stepping outside your comfort zone. I'm getting started with the presentation. One of the first things in my presentation is teaching your brain what your heart already knows when it comes to stepping out. If you have a question about what I'm talking about, or just inspired about a business question in general about what I talked about, go ahead and put in the chat, and I'll stop what I'm talking about, jump into what you have going on in your world so I can assist you, and then we'll get into the presentation. But if you have a question about the presentation, throw that out there as far as a question as well. Share this information. Let's get as many people in while we can. I pray I'll do this regularly with different topics. But in this case, we're talking getting outside your comfort zone, teaching your brain what your heart already knows. Let's go ahead and do it. Any questions, make sure you put it in the chat. So in this case, some of the key takeaways in this case, let me get my stuff situated. Some of the key takeaways is we want to create opportunities that require you to build self-confidence. We want to create opportunities that's going to require you to build self-confidence. It's going to be based upon the conversation. That's going to be the knowing aspect that we're talking about. That knowing aspect is what increases your confidence because you know something. And that's a whole other conversation. But we're also going to practice teaching the mind as well, and just being aware with the mind having to be okay with learning and growing. You're talking about yourself, but knowing that you have to learn and grow. Having a student mindset. We're going to talk about, in this particular case of stepping outside your comfort zone, happiness is a learning experience. We'll talk about that. Happiness is a learning experience. Opportunities should not be dreadful. Happiness is a learning experience. Opportunities should not be dreadful. If you have any questions, throw them into the chat. We'll stop and break them down. We'll also talk about first impressions. But we're also going to talk about, more importantly, impressing yourself first. We're going to talk about first impressions, but in that, impressing yourself first. How do you step outside your comfort zone? It's your comfort zone that you have to step out of, so therefore it's you that has to put the work in, you that has to retrain yourself, and you that has to build that courageousness, if that's a word, to be used in that sentence, as well as confidence, which is your knowing of getting things done. nonprofit leaders and business owners that may be new and you may have been earning your income and you're saying, hey, I want to start creating this self-employed slash passive business structured income. That's a huge game, and it takes a lot of courage and impressing yourself first and mindset. And we're also going to talk about during this process relaxing and enjoying the moment in this presentation. And if you are a new entrepreneur, again, a employment seeker, if you're an employment seeker, this is a great conversation for you. How so? Well, you know, one of the questions is, what is your goal that you want to make per month? And respectfully, if you don't have the skills and experience to make that amount, then you're going to have to do something different. And that may require you to step outside your comfort zone. That may require you respectfully to work your traditional hours and then work additional 4 to 8 hours, getting your training in, whatever that looks like. And that training could be either the traditional certification or whatever sense, or it could be through the hard knocks experience of you going into life and going through that motion. Because a lot of times I've been able to get opportunities because I had experience, not necessarily the education. And an example of that is when I was in California and someone told me this new university opened up and it was dealing with educating students on the four-year side, educating students on the business side of sports. So the 4-year university educating students on the business side of sports. The university was called American Sports University. It still should be there. My car was down. I had just broke down. Someone told me about it, so I caught the bus and went down there. Brand new school opened up, and I just pitched them on what I was doing. I was an entrepreneur at the time, doing some small community things. The person that was there was an admission rep. He wasn't the decision maker, but he said, hey, come back tomorrow. The guy's out of town. He'll be back tomorrow. Put something on that's a little professional, and let's see. So I had ran to the guy, and he told me to come back next day. I came back next day on the bus, and had my something more professional on. The guy introduced me now. Hey, this is Danavan, to the admissions director. I was 20 years old, 21 years old, just young and full of energy, and ultimately shared my spiel and got hired that day as an admissions representative for this college. The point is, I came to Nashville. I went to this career college to try to enroll into the college for business management courses. I came in with my suit on because I wanted to get in. So I had my suit on, trying to get in to get business management courses. I happened to be sitting in front of the director of admissions to get admissions rep. In my spiel as to why I should be accepted into the university or the career college, the director said, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you seem like a well-spoken, well-dressed young man. Have you ever thought about a career in admissions? I was down. I needed a job. I was like, yeah, I was thinking about a career. And he said, so what college did you go to? I said, I didn't go to college. I have some college experience at a community college, but I don't have any college degree. And he slumped back in his chair. I'll never forget. And he said, oh, okay. Then he said, I suppose you don't have any experience as an admission representative. I said, you know what, I do. I said, I sure do. I have 1 year experience. And I had a little over a year experience as an admissions representative, and at the college in California. And I was able to get hired that same day. I'll never forget. I came back home. I don't even think I was married yet. I was with my fiance, or maybe my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. Shout out Malika. Backbone to it all. It's another conversation we'll get into. How do you manage and maintain as a business owner, entrepreneur, as a professional, and your household is not together? And that requires you to jump into yourself first to make sure everything else on the outside is good. Another conversation, but I came home and Malika said, did you enroll into the college? I said, they offered me a job. And a year later, I was the director of admissions of the career college because the director got a job somewhere else in a different state. No college degree. There were people already there working there for years. I'm 24 years old. These are grown people, 30, 40 years old and higher. Respectfully, I'm still young and learning, life. And they offered me the director of admissions job, and I asked them why. This is the career campus director, or the campus director, and the regional director of admissions. And I asked them why, and they said, because you were working at a directors of admissions level this whole time without getting paid for it, and we wanted to offer you the job. Now, granted, because I had little to no experience, without a degree, I probably got a huge, I didn't get paid the actual amount, but I'm 24 years old, and whatever they offer me, I'm taking it excited, going to run with it. But the point is, that was experience that I was able that I received years ago, in California, and that helped me get an opportunity, which helped me today and put me in a position where I am today. Is my point. And so, when it comes to that experience piece, it was for employment seekers. That's what it was, employment seekers. And we got 30 more minutes, so it feels like I'm rambling. Jump on in for your questions when it comes to business development. You're a business owner, entrepreneur, emerging leader, professional. If you're talking about if you need help and questions with business development, I need to increase my prospecting list quickly. I have little to no cash. What do I do? Whatever it is, leave it in the comments. We'll get into it. Networking, customer base expansion, community engagement, brand awareness, anything. Talk to me on that. But in the meantime, I'm going to break down this comfort zone conversation. And with that being said, employment seekers, you may have to get experience, and you'll get there. And if that's a story, now would it be different 99 times out of 100? What is it? So 99 times out of 100, you have this experience, but this one time, I got this experience, the one that I needed to get me into the next level, or whatever that was in my career. This presentation is also for relationship seekers. Managing those relationships, that's very broad. That's business and customer, customer relationship managers, business relationship managers. Those are those that work at banks and, you're managing those accounts, things of that nature. Relationship seekers, young adults, you have a full life ahead of you. I see Malika has a question. Hilton, Malika has a question. We're going to go ahead and answer that. But young adults, if you have, you have your life ahead of you. How do you step outside your comfort zone? And for introverts, you're not really wanting to be out in the scene like that, this presentation is for you. Malika has a question. Malik Hilton, thank you. Shout out to you, waving back. What mindset shifts are essential for business owners to embrace when it comes to continuous learning and expanding their skill sets? Now, this is from Instagram, so I need those on YouTube. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, as well as LinkedIn and Google Meets. This is coming from LinkedIn, so make sure you're coming in with your questions. What mindset shifts are essential for business owners to embrace when it comes to continuous learning and expanding their skill sets? I'll just say this. A business owner, to me, is also someone that's, and this is probably not the best way to say it, but in the system that we live in when it comes to capitalism, a business owner is probably stepping into the same journey as someone that's walking through life. And what I mean by that is, if you're walking through life, or you're going through life, you should have the mindset at least and the will to be the best. In life, when you are born in life, your life is really dictated and determined by your environment. It's a survival mechanism. You gotta first survive, you gotta thrive. The first two rules, you gotta survive and reproduce. The first two rules of biology. So I don't lose my train of thought. In life, it's a survival mechanism. And so you need to be able to not only survive, but you need to be able to thrive. And that's the mindset of those that have always been since the beginning of time with human beings, the indirect or the direct leader of a group. Because they're always either challenging or pushing the envelope to where some who you think would be great leaders just wouldn't be the one. So that's why I try to tell people who may not be their ideal person they think they are, you are who you're supposed to be and you're great. Don't worry about the features that you do or do not have. Walk in what you were designed to be and walk in and watch the move, because it's your story that's going to shape things. The impossible, the odds, that makes sense. So with that being said, to answer your question, Marie Hilton, my apologies, is going into life with that mindset of how do I survive and thrive to be able to pass away peacefully and do it in a way where I have an abundant life if it's possible, based upon the environment that I'm in. The same thing with business. How do I go through my business and build this child, this new baby, this new infant? First starting with you're having a child. You got a child on the way. So that's when you're the mindset of, hey, I'm going to start a business. And then you start planning for that. You start preparing for that. And eventually the baby comes, or the business actually is launched. The open house, the ribbon cutting, the grand opening, however you want to look at it. And from there, you're literally nurturing this child. And as someone that's an adult or older than that child, having the mindset to thrive and survive in life, you're now nurturing that child to have the same mindset. We talked about surviving, and then now we're talking about reproduction. So how do you reproduce the same mover and shaker that you are in the next generation? And that's why I want to shout out again Kevin McKenzie for his walk as a mover and shaker and a not only a survivor but a reproducer of the mindset of a winning attitude. And so my point to that is, what mindset to embrace when it comes to continuous learning and expanding their skill sets. If you're in business, then you should be trying to be the best you can be, because in life you should be trying to be the best you can be. So therefore, a business owner should have the mindset of being the best that you can be is a lifestyle. I say all that to say, the mindset should be, I'm being the best person, an individual that I can be, because that's who I am as a person, and that's why I'm going into business. That's why I'm stepping outside the comfort zone, respectfully, of consuming and stepping inside the world of producing. So the mindset, respectfully, I'm not saying nothing, no one's better than no one else. No one is better than no one else, and we're all trying to survive at the end of the day. We're all a gumdrop and a shoe step away from challenges. Don't act like, and obviously the objective is to have a lot of money, because in a lot of ways that's going to help you in a lot of the challenges that we have in life. Money does help in a lot of ways. But at the same time, challenges are going to happen, and if I can bring it all the way back, you're going to have a mindset, especially when you're running a business, a mindset of, I'm taking risk. And I'm doing that on purpose, because that's life. I'm taking risks. So that makes sense. That's the mindset you have to have or shift to, is and that's the point, because if you're not having the mindset of your personal life of surviving and thriving, which is a kind of an indirect spin back to you, Malik Hilton, indirect, how can you start a business if you yourself do not have a mindset of, as an individual, surviving and thriving? Does that make sense? Because that's what you're going to have to do as a business owner. You're going to have to always be the one leading. You're going to have to always be the one scaling. You're going to always have to be the one being a decision maker and everything else. We'll get into the details shortly. But if you're not accountable to yourself as an individual, how can you be accountable to a company and to people that are depending on you? And there's going to be challenges at the beginning. So I think there was another question. We have another question on YouTube. Another question from YouTube. I can't see the name here, forgive me. Have you ever been in an area where you felt uncomfortable? How did you overcome it? Yes, all the time. And I overcame it by knowing that tomorrow and the next moment is going to come. And if I don't take advantage of this moment that I'm in for the vision that was given to me, now I'm going to miss that moment. And it may be that exact moment that would have determined the next direction or step that I would have gone that would have gotten me closer to prosperity, if that makes sense. So my overcoming this, if you will, was fear of missing the moment. Because I know that I want to pursue this, and that is my goal, that is my desire. And if I look back in my life and say, dang, that was right in front of me, and I didn't give everything I had for that moment, again, like in life, bro, then you're not serious in life, then you're not serious for the life game. I'm not saying anything other than life is real. And you only get certain shots in life. If you look at life at its nature core, if you look at the wild animals, they wake up every day giving their all, respectfully. We're fortunate as human beings to be civilized, if you will. But that aspect of the mindset should not change. You got to go out there and get it. So when it comes to, have you ever been in an area where you felt uncomfortable? Yes, because nature and life, as we bring it into business, is uncomfortable. then how do you overcome it? Like in nature and life, I'm looking to survive, but in my survival, I want to thrive. And that's based upon the environment that I'm in. And I'll give you an example. Imagine if you're an animal, if you will, and you're able to figure out how to get, in this abundance of trees and that provide fruits and all that, and nuts and berries. But imagine if you knew a way where you were able to gather nuts and berries and fruits. How valuable would you be seen as? You know? And the thing is, when you are that valuable, not only will you get some challenges, because what you earn and what you achieve is now you got to protect it, but you'll also get some benefits. You know what I mean? And so when you're surviving and you're trying to go through life, how do you find benefits? And how do you create benefits? And the challenge is, as you achieve these benefits, how do you stay integral and in character and in good character and in good spirituality to be able to sustain and again reproduce a strong, sustainable reproduction of whatever you're trying to do. Because my point is, if you're doing things, you're doing it in a way where it's underhanded or not as truthful as it needs to be, the reproduction is not going to come out what you need, and it's going to only slowly but surely create more challenges to where eventually everything's going to catch up over time. So you want to do things right. And so if you have any questions, make sure you're jumping in. We're going to move on with this presentation. As well, I want to shout out Intelligent Office. I want to shout out Intelligent Office, Nashville office. That's located downtown, 315 Diedrich Street, Suite 1550, Nashville, Tennessee, 37238. Especially if you are a small business owner or someone looking to grow, or if you need someone to assist you remotely to expand in certain areas to include administrative, phone calls, and just a location to meet downtown and have an office space and an address. Basically, Intelligent Office Nashville downtown would be your best choice. And I say that because it's about location, especially if you're a business owner or starting to launch a business. You definitely want to try to have an address, especially your business cards or your promotional material. It'll help you with applying for working capital, things like that. And Intelligent Office Nashville and the Intelligent Office brand overall is a great choice for you to use when it comes to expanding your operations, when it comes to phone calls, administrative work, a location downtown, address, and that whole professional setup to assist you with being an administrator, a virtual assistant, and a place to use as a business to grow. So I want to shout them out, and we're going to move on. And if you have any questions, make sure you bring them up. Let me look into Facebook, see if you have any questions. I'm just rambling. Let me go to Facebook real quick, y'all. Facebook family, what's going on? We have about 15 more minutes. I haven't started the presentation shouldn't be too long, but I just want to break down just the mindset that we always have to have when we're talking about things like business development, networking, customer base expansion, community engagement, brand awareness, things like that. It's the mindset. And so hopefully all this can resonate with you and can be applied to your life. And so it's important to know that failures do not exist other than not trying. Failures do not exist other than not trying, which means that if you didn't try, then that's the failure. If you didn't try, that's the failure, first and foremost. Failure breeds education, experience, perseverance, and a story that inspires others. So in your journey of uncertainty, you're actually inspiring others. I'm gonna use the word conundrum of life. And that's why I'm telling business owners, if you're not one looking to master life, then you shouldn't be running a business, because they both correlate. I mean, it's just what it is. You have to survive in life. You have to survive or thrive in life. That's a biological makeup. And you have to survive and thrive and reproduce in business. So if you're someone that's not giving all you can in life, don't go into business unless you're prepared to personally develop yourself in the process if you feel like business is, and the product or service you're selling is worth it to you. And this is something you have to keep in mind, that these failures are There's no failure unless you don't try. And every challenge that you go through is going to inspire someone else, to include yourself, which is one of the things we talked about, impressing yourself first. Over time, with consistent action, you will realize that failure is nothing more than an illusion. You'll realize with consistent action over time that failure is nothing more than an illusion. And that's really what separates those that produce and those that just consume. Because they have this hollow shell wall right there that looks real, but it's not. But it's those that just go through that wall. No matter what. Like that's what they do, like that walk over the burning coals, those that practice, when you do the retreats and stuff. And sometimes it's not even hot. You don't know, but the bottom line is, it is what it is. Are you going to be one of those producers to make it happen? Again, for those that don't know, my name is Danavan Hilton, with 15 minutes left. Danavan Hilton, I'm a husband, I'm a father, entrepreneur, relationship management expert, and a business advisor. Relationship management being specifically marketing and marketing and customer service, my apologies. Marketing, customer service, marketing being business development, community engagement, branding, media relations, and government relations. Customer service being account management, retention, and conflict resolution. And so those are the areas that I serve in. I have the opportunity to run a sales and marketing consulting firm that provides outsourcing for corporate brands that want to increase their presence and their customer base in urban areas of the U.S. And I'm growing that practice internationally to where I can connect corporate brands to African diaspora countries to increase their customer base and their community presence. But in that, I'm also connecting the urban areas, professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs to the corporate world, because we need those urban-based individuals to be producers. And urban-based could be based upon density population, some say ethnicity, things of that nature, but I'm looking at it more from a density population, because those urban cores are really where a lot of the challenges may arise psychologically, because you have to pay bills, you have to, you have expenses. Where maybe if you live in the rural areas of the world, you're living off the land and you may have to, do things more yourself. But when you live in a more industrial area, you're paying for the convenience of, your amenities. And so you have the challenges of consistent money flow. You got to, so that's a challenge that some people don't have to go through. So the point is, how do you get to a point where your money is high enough to where you don't have to worry about those aspects financially? And so I run this marketing business, sales and marketing consulting firm, connecting brands to make these things happen. And in that, I've had the opportunity to build a growing advisory firm, helping these business owners and executives and managing partners and board members and executive directors in insight, access, and resources outside of the traditional sense of branding plans, event marketing, and corporate ambassadorship and other marketing communication strategies we offer. I'm also a statesman. I use the word statesman because my work of business and community relations does spill into government relations. And you got to be aware that, if you're living in a community, you're dealing with business, community, and government. It all works together. And so that's my work, my background. If you have any questions, throw it out there. You can reach out to me on, of course, the platform you're looking at me now, but I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, but mostly catch me on LinkedIn. That's where the business is. So when we're talking about helping your brain, we're talking about teaching your brain what your heart already knows. We're talking about, in this case, a three-part system. The heart being the operator, which could be seen as the input. The mind being the operating system, which is the process. And the body being the machine, which is the output. And so we're talking about a lot of different dynamics in one sentence or one statement. Input, process, output. So if you're familiar with computer science, and we're talking about life, which I'm not saying anything in this regard, but what I'm saying is computer science and its rules has a lot of similarities to life and its rules, especially when it comes to um, systems, input, process, output. And so you have input, process, output for any system. And then within that process, you really can only add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So in any situation you're going through, you're looking at what is the input, what is the process, what's the output, and during that system, do I need to add something, subtract something, multiply it, or divide it, if that makes sense. So you look at it from that computer science standpoint, it's very interesting, but ultimately, you are the heart as the operator in this particular case. You are the heart because, again, we're trying to teach the brain what the heart already knows. So therefore, you know yourself. You know what you want to do. You know what you're capable of. And that's why you have that desire to do what you want to do. But it's your brain talking you out of it. So if your brain was a part of you and you knew you wanted to do something, then your brain, which is part of your team, wouldn't talk you out of it. Unless they're trying to make sure that you are able to survive and have a life and to still be conscious of what's going on. So therefore, they're looking out for your best interest. But you have to let your brain know as your heart that I appreciate you looking out for our best interest and making sure that no action is no challenges. But in essence, if I really want to survive, like water, I have to keep it moving. Because water that's stale can become poisonous and not good enough to drink. And I'll give you an example. I was out walking with my queen the other day, and we saw some water that was kind of flowing. I mean, not really flowing, but it was a creek, and it looked all glucky and green and da-da-da. And I'm always thinking, something were to jump off, where's the water source? So in my mind, I'm like, dang, I would need to have some type of mechanism that could boil this water, because the water wasn't moving as much. It was very, it was standing water. But we walked further up, and the water was flowing down the creek. It looked good. It looked healthy. And so, like water per se, I'm going to use the Bruce Lee, I think that the meme, be the water, respectfully. But the water, you got to keep it moving. That was my point to that. And so, bring it all the way back. You're the heart. You're the operator, because you know that you know what you want to do, and you cannot allow your mind, which is the operating system, override the operator. That's like you hiring somebody, training them on your brand and your business, and over time, they basically are telling you what to do, and your mind, you're like, wait a minute, it's my vision. And that's kind of like, respectfully, I think it was Steve Jobs in Apple. He basically operated something, created an operating system, and eventually the operating system overrided him in that respect. And the output was, he came back with a great story of coming back to Apple and really helping make Apple what it is today. So the point is, you have to know that, respectfully, your mind is on your team, but your mind, what was that movie? The movie where, the cartoon, I love the movie. There was a cartoon, and it was like these different little, I'm gonna call them gumballs, but they were in this child's head, and this child was, I'm gonna ask my boys, they're with me. Boys, y'all know the name of that movie with the child? It was a cartoon, kind of, and the child was playing, and they had little balls in their head, and there was like these different islands that eventually came crashing down because Inside Out. I want to shout out Inside Out. I had to ask the boys for that. And if you don't, especially as a business resource, if you don't have your family on the payroll, especially your children, that's something for you to start thinking about. I think this last time I checked, it was like a $12,500 tax write-off per child. Your child's able to start working and become a producer-minded as well, as we're already correlating that that producer-minded is business-minded, and business-minded is life-thriving mindset, if we will. And so the point was, that I bring it back, the Inside Out, or the point to that, the Inside Out, the system. Oh, yeah. So what happened with the bottom line was, Inside Out, the bottom line was, it was the sad emotion. That's what it was. It was a sad emotion that really caused a lot of the challenges in the movie, but it was the sad emotion at the end of the movie that really made the life be what it was for the child. So I'm gonna shout out Inside Out, check it out. And the point was, the heart is you as the operator, the mind is the operating system, and the sad emotion was trying to look out for the child, but the sad emotion didn't know when it should be used and when it should not be used, and it was just being emotional, all the sad emotion all the time, because that's what it is, and it brought some unique challenges. I'll shout out Inside Out on that. Your mind is the process to achieve something, or at least to pursue something, the opportunities of the heart. So you got to be able to take that operating system, which is the mind, and you as the operating system, the heart. You as the heart has to take. You as the operator has to take your operating system as your mind to produce the outcomes that you're looking for. Yes, my love. Question for me? Okay. What's that mean, my love? 7 o'clock. Okay, thank you. I got my team with me. It's 7 o'clock. I'm gonna go for another 5 minutes. JZV. Shout out to my man. Shout out to my person. I don't know who you are, but as far as I'm gonna say my man, but I don't know. I've never met. But shout out to, that's my terminology. My man, my guy. I don't want to assume that's the case as far as being a gentleman. So therefore, shout out to JZV. Hope all is well. Thank you for tuning in. We're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Google Meets, YouTube, and Instagram. And the objective today was for me to open my door for us to talk about any questions or concerns you may have had when it came to you being a business owner and you wanted to develop your business, increase your customer base, you needed help with networking, what that looked like, expanding your customer base, what that looked like, any help with community engagement, what that would look like. And community engagement is basically assisting with your community buy-in in a way where you're connecting with community leaders and sources as a form of influence to build your loyalty, to strengthen your message, and ultimately to get referrals. So it's kind of an indirect referral marketing system, as well as talking about brand awareness. It's actually it's 7 o'clock now, Central Standard Time, but looking at the YouTube live, we're at 57 minutes, so I have 3 minutes left before I shut it down. The point is, thank you, my love, for the heads up. And I'll also talk about, running a business with your family and what that looks like and how that dynamic works. But ultimately, the whole point of the business growth open house is to allow you to ask any questions you have of me in those areas, with me providing valuable insight for you. And while I'm doing that, we're going through a presentation. So today we're talking about stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I literally didn't get past slide 3. And I know you all wanted to listen to the presentation. That's why it's important at the end of the day, if you want to stay in contact with me, there should be a link in there somewhere for you to click to join the email list. There should be a link in there for you to click. If not, shoot me a message, or put in the comments, connect. Put in the comments, connect, so you can stay connected with me on when I'm doing these presentations, and also to find out more information about the updates that I have going on. Because I said to say, if you want to connect with me and get more information, I'll put the link in to where you can learn more about my advising service, where I do provide guidance, insight, access, and resources in the areas of lead generation, brand awareness, cross-promotion opportunities, in the areas of workforce marketing, real estate community engagement, business development, and nonprofit development. If you need insight, access, resources, if you have a challenge you're going through, you need connections on how to reach somebody, reach out to me. That's what I do as a professional. And ultimately, I have these different trainings that I do as well, free trainings that I provide, free resources by clicking the link. I have an explainer video that you can watch and learn more about my advising services, that you can learn the ins and outs. But I do provide training and conversations like getting comfortable being outside your comfort zone, teaching your brain what your heart already knows is on there. But ultimately, make sure that before we wrap up, that you are signing up to connect with me so we can talk about growing your business, growing your opportunities in more detail, as well as those that do sign up, the beautiful thing is I'm going to create a group, a coalition, a council where like-minded individuals can have a voice to help move things on a larger scale. And if we are working together, and with so many different people on the chat, there's so many different skill sets that we can bring together. We can get a lot of different things done, especially when it comes to production. So that's why it's important for you to make sure that you send me an inbox or a message at the minimum that you want to connect and stay up to date with my information. Hopefully, this was of value to you. There should be a link down there somewhere. PayPal, I'll say it out loud, paypal.me/E1Connect. E as the numerical, or the letter E, numerical number 1, connect, CONNECT. So the letter E, the numerical number 1, connect, CONNECT. If you felt this message was of value to you in any way, part of being a producer, part of being a business owner, part of being someone that wants to thrive in life, is you got to go out there and ask for you to receive. You got to go ahead and knock for the door to be open. You got to act in order to get a reaction. And one of the reactions I want to get is, of course, the dollars, respectfully, or the currency. I'll say that. Worth anything to you or is value to you, I thank you for clicking that PayPal link there, paypal.me/E1Connect.com, and donating what you felt this message was worth to you. Thank you for that. There should be some links in the descriptions as well on how you can connect with me as far as staying on the email list and making sure that you can get more free resources by visiting my site. And then you can check out my explainer video, my pre-recorded explainer video breaking down my advisory services, so you can take care of the private meetings. You can take care of, I do provide prospecting outreach for you as well, up to 10 contacts. Prospecting outreach. I do provide resources, operation tools, as well as experts to help you grow your business. Also providing instant messaging if you want to connect in between our private meetings. Instant messaging, private meetings, prospecting, resources. Oh, access to my calendar. Access to my calendar. So if you're locally in the area, you'll have access to my calendar as far as networking opportunities coming up. I do have a regional and a growing national brand, and so part of joining the membership is also making sure you have access to the latest activities and opportunities that I get invited to. And so I'm growing, building an international brand, and so I'm also a registered Lord of Glencoe in Scotland, courtesy of Highland Titles. I'm building an international UK brand, meaning I want to connect and promote corporate brands in urban areas across the globe. So I'm talking African diaspora countries. And in that UK culture internationally, a Lord is someone that is a master of their profession as well as a landowner. And that's why I want to shout out Highland Titles for me reaching out and grabbing the small plot of land, and me calling myself a professional, a master of my profession, and just my mindset of what I want to do as far as my brand. I'm building the international brand, so therefore I wanted to get a lordship title and stimulate minds. And I've gotten so many different perspectives. Some people think it's so dumb that I'm not, mentally stable in that regard because it doesn't sound right. And that's why I wanted to create the explainer video. I'll put the explainer video of the lordship title in the link, because again, I want to stimulate minds, and I'm building an international brand. So when you're within the U.S., it may not resonate. Lord, based upon the faith, does not resonate compared to the UK culture, where a lord or a lady, is more in the respect of commerce. And my wife is a registered lady as well. So, hey, let's connect. Thank you so much for your time. I should be back maybe tomorrow. I'm gonna try to do this 2 to 3 times a week. If you have any questions, jump on. Make sure you're sharing this information. We may just continue on with the presentation of specifically getting comfortable being outside your comfort zone, teaching your brain what your heart already knows. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. We'll connect. Thank you so much for your time. Like, follow, subscribe, all those things. Click that like button, share with your friends, and thank you for clicking that PayPal donate button and donating what you felt this message was worth to you. Make sure you join the email list, join that, click that form, so I can make sure that I stay in connection with you and make sure you're up to date with what's going on. Hopefully I'll be on in your town for some type of speaking presentation or workshop that I put together in the future. Who knows? Thank you for your continued well wishes, and I wish you all peace, prosperity, and praise to you. I'll see you at the top. I'll see you at next time, Lord willing. Peace. So y'all forgive me as I go ahead and cut all these off. Well, don't forgive me, but just thank you for your patience. We're still rolling.